So when you think of Torchwood, usually you think of Captain Jack, people swearing like they've just learned what swear words are, and lastly, gratuitous sex and violence. Torchwood was supposed to be a more mature take on the Doctor Who universe, but sometimes its desperation to be adult resulted in overly edgy and immature episodes. One of the most infamous examples of this is Day 1. No, not that Day 1. No, this is the controversial second episode of Torchwood Series 1, following Gwen Cooper's first day as a member of Torchwood as the team fight, well, alien sex gas. Yes, as Russell T Davies so eloquently put it in the promotion of Torchwood Series 1, when we're launching a new adult science fiction drama, it's kind of inevitable that you're going to do the sex monster. And who better to write this episode about sex gas than Chris Chibnall? Yes, resident Doctor Who boogeyman Chris Chibnall is the one that wrote Day 1, and apparently has no idea where the sex gas idea came from. Yeah, okay Chris, sure. So after 15 years, does the sex gas episode have more to offer than, well, sex gas? Oh god, this video is going to get age restricted or demonetized, isn't it?
Right, sorry, just to recap. You've travelled here to feed off orgasmic energy.
I think the episode opens on a very intriguing note. We get a quickfire montage of Gwen and Rhys on date night, but it keeps cutting to aerial shots of Cardiff with a mysterious low rumble. It makes it really ominous and foreboding. One of the main themes of this episode is the battle between normal life and Torchwood, so I think this is a good prelude to this, showing the distant call of Torchwood lurking out on the horizon. It culminates with a comet streaking across the sky, forcing Gwen to go to work earlier than expected since she gets called into action. I also like that this time the episode starts from Torchwood's point of view, rather than Gwen's outsider point of view. In Everything Changes, they just mysteriously showed up out of nowhere, and we had no idea what was going on. We saw it from Gwen's perspective, so they were a complete outside, mysterious entity. However, here we get to see every step of the process, with Captain Jack briefing the team in the car, giving us an inside look at the operations. I think this reflects how Gwen is now in the inner circle, so to speak. She's part of the team, and Torchwood is no longer this strange, shady presence operating from the shadows. I mean, they still are, but we get to see them from this new perspective. They arrive at the impact site of the comet, and I really like the design of the crater. It's just this massive hole illuminated by lights, with army personnel swarming the scene. It really nails that mysterious, alien feeling of a comet impact like this, along with giving it a good sense of scale. Since this is Gwen's first mission as a Torchwood member, her newness is one of the main points of conflict and exploration within this episode. I like how it's immediately established with her not knowing about the systems in the car or the usual formations and routines, even accidentally leaving her equipment in the car. These small things do a lot to show her lack of experience and how she's almost being thrown into the fire, since she has to deal with all of this before she's even an active operative. You really feel like she's out of her depth, like when she tries to talk her way past the army, with them not even believing that she's Torchwood until Jack appears to bail her out. There's also a great short montage of the team following procedure and taking readings, whilst Gwen just kind of stands there uninvolved since she doesn't really know what to do, and hasn't integrated herself into the team yet. She's not quite sure what they expect her to do, and Owen teases her for this. So to almost get back at him, she tries to copy Jack by throwing him the chisel, only for it to fly into the comet and release the infamous sex gas. I think it's the perfect illustration of that desperate attempt to fit into a new group, trying to emulate someone only for it to fail because you're too new to get away with it. It's a nice moment that once again shows her inexperience, driving home that this is one of the main parts of the episode. I think that each member's reaction to Gwen's mistake says a lot about them as characters. Owen is very bitter and snarky about it, forcing Tosh to step in as a voice of reason, before Jack reassures Gwen since he knows everyone makes mistakes, and the sooner she comes to terms with that, the quicker they can work together to solve the sex gas problem. And yes, I suppose I have to talk about the infamous sex gas, which attacks, probes, violates a woman? I'm not quite sure what exactly this moment here is supposed to be, but what I do know is that it sets the tone for the worst elements of the episode, since, well, it's sex gas. The effect of the gas is nice, though, I suppose I can say that much. It's very well realised and looks alien, especially since gas is pretty difficult to make good effects of. I do have to give this alien sex gas credit for one thing though. It's only been on Earth for like half an hour, and it's already worked out this optimal speedrun route for bonking is a nightclub. Those are some good strats right there, Alien Sex Gas. Well done. See you at GDQ. An episode about sex gas is very hard to take seriously, so it almost feels like self-parody at times, with them banging on about sex all the time. It even feels like sometimes the cast can't take it seriously, with their line reads coming across like they're desperate to hide a smirk or a laugh.
Alright, so you're Caris. You're desperate for sex.
But despite these occasional attempts at levity, Torchwood is still a show for grown-ups and edgy teens, so we end up getting a sex scene within the first 9 minutes of the episode. For obvious reasons, I'm not exactly going to show the scene, but Mr. One Pump Chump here explodes into yellow stuff and becomes a pile of ash on the floor. Yes, indeed, Mr. One Pump Chump has succumbed to the age-old death by snoo snoo. It could be worse, I guess.
Oh my god. He just
came and went.
I do like that Andy is one of the officers at the scene of the crime, allowing for a surprise reunion with his now former police partner Gwen. It's a good moment that shows the relatively simple life she's leaving behind. She has become one of those very shadowy figures she and Andy saw at the murder scene, and everything changes. It once again shows that shift in perspective, and I like that Andy is jaded at how she's just moved on to this mysterious new job, without explaining it to the people she's leaving behind. It continues to show that difference between the normal world and the Torchwood world. And again, I like that Gwen keeps making mistakes. They're talking to the club owner to try and identify the woman with the sex gas, but Gwen goes into full interrogation mode and overwhelms the guy with questions, which is again a way of showing how she's still not quite gelling yet, and can't read the room with Torchwood's style of work. I think that Jack is very reassuring here and not making Gwen feel bad about her mistakes. He's made plenty of mistakes himself, from the Tula ambulance to him allowing Susie to kill herself. So he's understandably more lenient on Gwen to try and help her ease in. It continues to solidify him in that doctor-like role. This characterization is also continued when Jack is trying to work out where the comet came from, spewing out technobabble and scanning technology, just like the Doctor would do with the TARDIS. I mean, he even works out the flight path of the comet, which is what the Doctor did with the fake alien ship in Aliens of London. However, one of the main reasons I like this scene is because Gwen asks if Tosh and Owen are seeing anyone, only for them to say that the job makes that impossible because it's too traumatic and time consuming. They don't even do anything to switch off from it, which is a great continuation of how Susie admitted that Torchwood gets to you. It shows just how much of a commitment this job is, how it consumes everything you are and everything you know, just like the sex gas. Just like any porno ever, Caris tries to bonk the postman to get his energy, only for the horny police to bust in and capture her. I do like that they capture the monster of the week halfway through, rather than chasing her the whole time. It allows for the pace to slow back down and explore characters for a while. This also allows us to establish a battle of inner turmoil for Caris, along with exploring the motivations of the alien. We see Gwen's preconceptions of alien life since she immediately jumps to the conclusion that the alien came here to invade or enslave the population, only for her to be confused when that's actually not the case. It's a nice subversion because as a species we're so used to this belief that aliens are going to kill us all or turn us into slaves, so it breaks down both Gwen and the audience's expectations. I also like that Caris has this inner turmoil since she has these moments where the possession is lifted and she begs for help, not wanting to be consumed by this alien inside of her. She doesn't have a say in all of this killing, it's the alien doing it. So I like that they focus on the grief this causes her. Caris's inner turmoil not only builds a sense of sympathy for her, but it also allows the show to introduce exactly what Gwen brings to the table, which is a sense of humanity. She comments on how the team has lost touch with humanity, too busy eating Chinese, and scanning Caris with blunt, scientific purpose, rather than trying to help her since she's fighting for her life against this alien possession. It shows how long this team has been together, how they're completely desensitized from any humanity or compassion. I think they're like the Doctor in that aspect, sometimes simply forgetting what the right thing to do is. Too wrapped up in their own work and sense of righteousness, needing that companion to counterbalance them and remind them of their humanity. Gwen achieves this counterbalance as she prints out all sorts of reports, emails and photos of Caris, building a case file since she's so used to being a police officer. It makes Caris much more human, making you sympathetic for her, understanding what she's like as a person. It makes Gwen that human heart of the show, pushing Torchwood to change and adapt to be more helpful and human.
You've been hidden down here too long. Spending so much time with the alien stuff, you've lost what it means to be human.
I do like that the alien tries and fails to use Gwen for energy, but throws her away as soon as she realises Gwen is a woman because only men work for the energy. It shows that naivety of the alien, who can still get confused as to who is what. However, I'm not sure what I think about Gwen's new co-workers oogling her as this happens. Bad Torchwood, go to horny jail. I mean, Owen even records it.
Just, record it first.
Yeah, this episode really doesn't want you to like him. All throughout this episode, Owen is almost unbearably passive-aggressive and snarky towards Gwen. Kind of like he doesn't even want her to have joined the team. I appreciate that Gwen gets a moment to call him out on this, although when you think about it, they both should have lost their jobs by this point, since he's recorded indecent video of a co-worker and she's assaulted a co-worker, so I'd say there are grounds for firing there. But don't worry guys, Yanto is here to save the day with a Chinese takeaway. That moment is a very good piece of comedic timing, but in all seriousness, it's nice to see that Gwen has an edge about her, and won't keep putting up with Owen's passive-aggressive teasing, finally standing up for herself and bringing up that turmoil Karis is going through. However, the episode does make sure to show what Owen is actually there for, with a good scene of him charismatically explaining what's happening to Karis' body with the alien.
Rat jab.
You really understand that he's in his element here, this is what he's good at, and this is what he's here for. It highlights that he's a smart scientific mind, not just a snarky and jaded guy. So it's good for proving his worth in a way. Thanks to the pacing of the episode, the scene of the team eating Chinese is a good character exploration moment for all of them. Firstly, we see everyone having a good laugh, with Gwen not eating and kind of sitting there uninvolved, as if this was some inside joke she wouldn't get. It harkens back to that running theme throughout of her wanting to fit in but not quite being able to. This team has been together for so long and she's suddenly been thrust into the mix, so she doesn't understand how they work on both a professional and personal level. Then, when Jack leaves, it becomes an exploration of him, with all four of them speculating on who he is, commenting on the mysterious nature of the character. I like that his enigmatic nature is addressed by the characters within the episode, acknowledging that they also want to work out why he's so secretive and why he's the way he is. Any Doctor Who viewer would know about Jack as a person, but even then, at this point, you don't know where he's from, why he's there, or why he's so secretive. I think it's a good exploration of this big mystery, along with making Jack even more enigmatic and Doctor-like, since we didn't know the origins of the Doctor either. These two characters are drawn even closer together when Karis escapes and uses the Doctor's hand as a hostage to keep Jack at bay. This mysterious hand in a jar was introduced in the previous episode when Gwen saw it at the entrance to the Torchwood hub, but it just kind of seemed to be a quirky alien thing. Here, however, much more attention gets drawn to it. At this point in the show, you don't really know what it is, but it would later be revealed as the Doctor's hand from the Christmas invasion. It's one of the only things in the base that Jack values more than his own life, so it's great that it's used to limit and weaken him here, since it's all he has left of his time with the Doctor. I also love that when Karis smashes it, a piano version of the Doctor's theme leitmotif plays, hinting at it being the Doctor's hand, very subtly making that connection. The sequence also just simply draws your attention to it for the second episode in a row, which eventually conditions you to understand the significance during the final moments of End of Days, when it starts to bubble and glow in reaction to the Doctor arriving. It's just a good way of tying the show and the characters of Jack and the Doctor together, setting up those story beats for later on. After escaping, there's a good scene of Karis walking along the street, almost being overwhelmed by all of the sexual imagery on posters and adverts for all to see. This was apparently one of Russell T Davies' favourite scenes of the episode, because it's a bit of commentary as to how hypersexualised advertising and Western society is, although it does kind of make me wonder if Chibnall is a bit of an incel.
I have an idea. What about a villain? And it's a woman who you can't kiss! Otherwise you die!
I like that the climax, no pun intended, takes place at a fertility clinic, since again, speedrun strats. The sex gas is going for the snoo% world record here. It also explains why Karis was the one chosen by the sex gas since she works there, so has a nearly unlimited supply of the old jiggy jiggy. It explains the seemingly random choice, twisting it into a conscious choice on the alien's part, along with being the logical progression of the story, by upping the ante from individual murders to this big killing spree, by killing everyone in the clinic. And just as a side note, this guy busts a nut off the Richter scale. It's good that the end of the episode comes down to Gwen taking responsibility for actions at the beginning, deciding that she'd rather take the sex gas into her own body than allow Karis to die. It's a big sacrifice she's prepared to take, even though Jack saves her in the end by containing the gas in a containment field to kill it. For a Chibnall episode, this is a very good ending. The whole time Gwen has been trying to make up her mistakes and sticking up for Karis, always believing that she can be saved. So in the end, her gamble pays off and Karis survives. Much like the profiling and the Chinese takeaway scene, it shows how Gwen brings this humanity into the team. Everyone else had dismissed Karis and was expecting her to die or have to kill her, but Gwen takes the risk of dying in order to save Karis no matter what. I think it says a lot about Gwen as a character and the team as an organisation, how she's able to change these attitudes over time by bringing this more compassionate thinking into the dynamic. As I've mentioned throughout this video, Day 1 is all about the difficulty balancing normal life and Torchwood life. Gwen's boyfriend Reese serves as the personification of this theme. At the beginning, it's their date night interrupted, but then halfway through he calls her to check in on her and see how she's doing. The whole tone of this scene changes once she calls her, suddenly making everything so normal again. It strips away the alien makeouts and sex gas to show that there is still a normal, boring world outside of Torchwood. It all becomes peaceful and normal again until Gwen is propelled back into the wild and vicious world of Torchwood, as the throat-eating Weevil from the first episode shows up again. It reminds you of how hard it is for a Torchwood operative to keep this job separate from their life, which is why Owen and Tosh just don't even try since they know it's an impossible balance. This through line is wrapped up so well at the end of the episode, with Captain Jack giving a very doctor-like speech.
Go home, Gwen Cooper. Eat lasagna. Kiss your boyfriend. Be normal.
Jack doesn't want Gwen to get consumed the same way Susie did, knowing that Gwen can still keep a good work-life balance if she tries hard enough. She can still retain that humanity that every other Torchwood member has lost over time. The episode then ends with Gwen and Reese having dinner, everything suddenly back to being so normal and human. I just think it's such a good ending, her finally being able to go home and return to this normal life. She's seen firsthand the toll that Torchwood can have on people, but at the end of the day, she's able to go home to Reese and his boring talk about lorry routes. It feels so nice and cozy, returning to this world without aliens and sex gas, once again reminding you that Torchwood isn't the outside world, this is. The world is actually about lasagna and lorries. It's just so human, and that should be celebrated. Day 1 is a Torchwood episode that lives in infamy amongst Doctor Who fans, and that's all thanks to the widely disliked sex gas. No matter what the episode does, it can never be known as anything other than the sex gas episode. I feel like this is a huge shame, since there are some great concepts, but the episode was definitely inviting this dismissal, since alien sex gas is such an immature and comedic setup for a spin-off that's supposed to be mature. It just creates such a tonal clash that kind of overwhelmed the episode and drags it down. Admittedly, there is a self-awareness about the episode, since it pokes fun at itself and has some great so bad they're good lines.
Asking for you to get out.
Just relax, I can help.
I don't think so, love. I'm gay.
Some of the comedic moments and lines are on point, crafting a sense of levity and self-awareness that serves as a bit of a saving grace, but I don't think the placement of the episode was the right decision. An episode about alien sex gas that kills via orgasm would probably be better served as a mid-series episode, rather than the second, since it drove a lot of people away, a bit too ridiculous and immature. I get that they wanted to get out of the way early to almost make sure the audience knows the show is about sex and edgy stuff. Honestly, with how horny the episode is, you'd think it was a Moffat script, but it's actually a Chibnall episode, which I just find is quite funny. I think that the exploration of Gwen starting out as a Torchwood member is one of the biggest redeeming factors of the episode, so I would controversially give Day 1 a C on the Torchwood Series 1 tier list. There's no hiding from the fact it's all about sex gas, with some truly awful lines, but it still does have some good stuff in there, having good character moments and explorations. It'll always be referred to as the sex gas episode, and the sex gas itself is unforgivable, but actually Day 1 isn't all that bad after all. It's probably better than anything Chibnall has written for main Doctor Who. And I'd like to give a big thank you to my gold level patrons, John, Mark Hippold Guy Taylor, and Stephanic Never Miller. Thank you a lot for your support.